Let's add a few more things to this discussion on whether climate change is real. You may have already decided something, I don't know, but you can send me a message about what you think. So let's talk about the weather and climate a little bit more. We already looked at weather and said it changes from day to day, and within the day it can change because of the feedbacks, the land breeze and the sea breeze, if you remember what they are. So even though sun comes up and sun goes down during the day and sun goes north and south during the season, we just don't have night and day temperatures and seasonal temperatures. We have temperatures changing during the day, rainfall coming and going, clouds coming and going, winds coming and going. Seasons are warm and cold, and depending on where you are, it's more cold, less cold. Fall comes, spring comes, and flowers and leaves falling, colors, and so on and so forth. So day to day weather changes, year to year weather changes, but it may not be always obvious. So day-to-day climate change is hard to see. When we say climate change, it has to change year after year in one direction for a while. Doesn't mean every year has to be warm. It's just that in 10 years, 6 years may be warmer than expected, then 4 years may be normal, or even maybe a little cooler than normal. So this is how we have to change, discuss weather and climate. We already said weather is what you expect, or climate is what you expect, and weather is what you get. And we already said, if I'm sitting here on May 31st in Mumbai, I expect it to be hot and humid, and it may just happen to rain and may become cooler. So I expected by my knowledge of climatology that it should be hot and humid, because monsoon doesn't arrive here till the first week of June, but sometimes it arrives early. So even if you're suffering through the middle of a heat wave, for instance, it could just be a bad stretch of natural weather. It is true that there have always been years with very severe heat waves, but with global warming, heat waves are more likely to happen and be worse than in the years past. This is called duration, intensity, frequency, and so on and so forth. If you're too young, don't worry about it. If you're old enough, you can ask questions, or you can listen to my other podcasts which talk about this. So climate change tends to shift how things happen. Heat waves may always come to India during March, April, May, but with global warming or climate change, we may begin to have more heat waves than we expect normally. Warming may not be the cause of every event though, but emitting more greenhouse gases increases the odds of extreme weather, the probability of extreme weather. And extreme weather is not just heat waves, it could be heavy rain and very bad drought and very strong winter storm, or a winter with no snow, and so on and so forth. So here is an indicator of an app, local weather 97 degrees, and you can see each day is warmer in degrees Fahrenheit, because this is a book from the US, and the minimum temperatures are not changing much, so the day-night temperature is very small difference. If you had natural weather, you often tend to have very warm days and then temperatures fall back down during the night and so on. So let's re-emphasize this concept again. We looked at this before from the nice people of Climate Central in Princeton, New Jersey of the United States. Here we are looking at anomalies in temperature and the total concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere is going from 300 or so we were at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and we've been increasing, and now we are over to 420 or so, and that is shown with this yellow line here. Obviously we have taken out the ups and downs during seasons and just showing that CO2 is increasing, and it's increasing faster and faster, and compared to the baseline, the temperatures are warming and also warming faster and faster. But the doubt seeder, the person who's trying to convince you that climate change is not real, will show you this and say, look at the CO2, it's increasing, but the temperatures are going up and down. So how do you think CO2 is really responsible for the temperature change? Well, yes, you know your science by now. For each year can be different, each season can be different from this year to next year, because the heat that we are trapping by increasing the carbon dioxide can go into the ocean and stay there for some time, can go into melting glaciers, then it will not show up in the temperature. It may go into changing winds and rain and so on and so forth. So each year doesn't have to be warmer than the next year. You can have warmer and cooler years. But what is climate? You know that climate is when you average over 10 years, 30 years and so on. So can we average temperature anomalies, deviations from the baseline, which is here 1881 to 1910? You can change the baseline. The results don't change the fact that we are warming. So if we average for a decade, what do we see? Voila! You see that before the 1930s, the global mean temperatures were cooler than the baseline of 1881 to 1910. Then we started to jump up, a little bit up and down, and then we have been jumping up and up and up and up. Each decade is warmer than the previous decade, so all those ups and downs in the year-to-year temperatures that you see here are gone. So climate is warming. Weather shows ups and downs because that's what weather does, but climate is not weather. Climate is the average of weather over a decade or longer, and then you can see climate is changing. So you can tell this person, I know climate is changing because I can average the weather and see which way it is going. Don't show me this figure and say temperatures are going up and down, so it has nothing to do with CO2. I know my facts. Okay, so almost all climate scientists agree on that, and some other basic facts that climate is changing. Earth is heating up, sea level is rising, humidity is increasing, extreme events are increasing, heat waves are increasing, and so on. It's because more and more greenhouse gases are being released through the fossil fuels into the atmosphere using isotopes. You know that people are responsible for this because we are the ones burning those fossil fuels. Still, to argue against the facts, some people bring up climate changes of the past, that Earth has always gone through cycles. Yes, ice ages and intermediate periods, but you know that those were caused by natural orbital changes and internal vicious circles and feedbacks, and they happened when we were not around. This is critical. During the dinosaur age, CO2 levels were much, much higher, some people believe. That explains what's going on now. But remember, top scientists agree that given the Earth's natural cycle, the planet should be cooling now because the orbital changes we know already from mathematical formulation. We can tell what the orbital changes will do in terms of the energy coming from the sun and distribution from hemisphere to hemisphere for the next 1,000 years, 5,000 years, 10,000 years, and we should be going into a little cooling and back into an ice age. But remember, top scientists do agree that given Earth's natural cycle, the planet should be cooling. They also say that sun is sending out less energy, yet Earth is still warming. Then there are some people who agree that yes, human activity is causing the planet to warm, but they say that this is no cause for alarm. Plant life, animals and humans can adapt to this climate change. After all, they have in the past adapted to these changes. However, those people are forgetting that earlier warming periods stretched over thousands and millions of years when we were not around. Even every form of life had time to change. When change happens slowly, species adjust. That's how they have evolved. But if change is very fast, like we are doing with burning fossil fuel, then you cannot fit into a changing environment that is changing so fast. Now warming is happening at a much faster rate. Some people may accept all the science and even worry that Earth will not adapt to this current climate change, but even though the warming is dangerous, they say it's not harmful enough for people to switch the way we use energy. People don't want to give up their modern lifestyles and also don't want to change to using clean energy instead of fossil fuels, which are often less expensive. This is like your mom telling you not to eat candy, but you don't want to listen even though she's telling you it's bad for you. You'll say, let me wait and see. certain businesses that rely on fossil fuel feel the same way, that they don't need to be forced to reduce fossil fuel consumption. They don't want the government to pass laws limiting the release of CO2. Here are kids happily playing with their computer, the video games, and not knowing that all the bit of energy they are using is causing emissions. The dad is cleaning here with a vacuum cleaner. The sister is sitting and talking or chatting or reading something or watching something funny, and mom is happily using the hair dryer. So we are in a carbon trap, which means everything we produce needs energy, and energy comes from carbon based fossil fuel, and energy consumption is going up, energy production is going up, and we are wasting a lot of energy as well. So climate change isn't just a scientific issue, it's a political one too, because you may not be happy to give up playing video or reduce the time. Your sister may not be happy to reduce her chatting with the friends or watching funny videos, and father wants to clean the house and mom wants to dry her hair. So everything we are saying is going to affect our life. So we are saying, no, don't believe in climate change. Well, some people are. So you have to think about it and decide for yourself, and talk to your parents and teachers and decide what is happening, what is real and what is not real, and should you be worried, but should you be worried enough to just change your ways and reduce waste of water, food, energy, and so on, and start learning so that you can do something about it. Grow up and be a good engineer who will make efficient things and produce more renewable energy, batteries and storage, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we'll come back and continue in the next chapter talking about the climate politics. Whenever things affect, comments, decisions affect people's income, they worry about it and they want to fight it. So we'll come back and discuss the politics of climate change in the next chapter. See you, kids.